When did the I crave attention kid go too far? He drank an entire bottle of vodka at lunch and was kicked out of school. Snuck vodka into state mandated testing in a water bottle. She was sent home drunk off her ass and my entire class was banned from having water bottles in class for the rest of the year. Started angrily pumping weights when we were chilling at someone's house, threatened to shave his head and then tore his shirt off of his body. Did he drink a Monster? And was his name Kyle? A girl once punched herself in the gut at her little brother's b-day party and threw up just so people would notice her. That's commitment. He was a jerk. I had a couple of pet goats and he would come over and bully them all the time. He'd poke them through the fence with sticks, throw rocks at them, spook them with loud noises, but he'd never go into the pen. He was too scared of them. He should have known better. He was 16. One day we are all inside and we hear this blood-curdling scream. In comes the kid, screaming at the top of his lungs. The goat. The goat is after me. Help. We turn to see the big billy goat staring at him through the sliding glass door. Every once in a while it'd headbutt the glass. Now this was a very docile animal. He'd have never hurt a fly, but he was out for that boy's blood. It turns out that the kid had been torturing the goat. He had him pinned up against the wall of the pen throwing rocks and sticks at its testicles to see if he could hit them. The goat came after him, scaled the fence, and chased him across 3 acres of land and into the house. The kid waited for 2 hours for the goat to go away, but it never did. Anytime he opened a door to try to sneak away, the goat was right there trying to attack him. Eventually the goat disappeared and the kid tried to sneak out a window feet first and once again started screaming because the goat was right there headbutting his backside as he climbed out. It was absolutely liberating. Some kid pooped on the freaking toilet seat. A week later he pooped in the sink. I don't get why people liked him. Faked her own kidnapping as a senior prank. Story. Well, this is from my freshman year of high school. Was told by a relative who was a senior at the time and that was a while ago, so some parts may be fuzzy. Here we go. So that year many of the senior pranks were the usual generic things. Toilet paper, the works. So this girl had this great idea for a prank and to be a standout, faking her own kidnapping. Shortly after school one day in late May she called/texted her parents and friends that were out of the loop, hysterically telling them that a stranger shoved her in a truck and drove off. She said she was scared and please help her. The parents and friends wasted no time and immediately notified police. Eventually the Amber Alert was issued. She was later tracked down and found that evening. Turns out she was at the next city over hanging out at her BF's house. She confessed and was promptly arrested. The following day it was discussed primarily by the upperclassmen and didn't make it to the freshman class until 6th period 2 days later. I was at my friend's house. I was bored and started playing Portal 2 on his Xbox. After a while my other friend's sister, who mind you treated attention like a drug, burst into the room and started screaming at me like we were dating and in a fight. My friend was there too and just watched. Every time I would tell her to leave she would get louder. Bitch put powdered laxatives in his friend's drinks. This was in 6th grade. I knew this girl in high school who was the queen of obnoxious and attention-seeking behavior. She was constantly trying to get people's attention, from screaming loudly in the hall to crying hard over sad memes at lunch. She was so annoying, but unfortunately, many people bought and fed into her histrionics. Let's call her Cryface. I never really liked Cryface. She came off as fake and kinda rude. I tried to ignore her for the most part, but the absolute turning point for me was her over-the-top behavior at a choir concert junior year. It was 20 minutes before the concert was set to begin. Suddenly, Cryface's mom entered the auditorium, briskly walked to the director, and whispered something in his ear. The director nodded and called Cryface off the riser. When Cryface got down, the mom whispered something to her. All of a sudden, Cryface let out a blood-curdling scream and ran for the auditorium exit. She got halfway before collapsing to the ground wailing. She kept yelling, "Oh my god, oh my god," over and over again. The mom came up behind her, pulled her up by the elbow, and rushed out. Naturally, everyone in the choir thought something horrible had happened. Some friends had texted her, but Cryface would only respond with cryptic messages like nothing will ever be the same, and why couldn't it have been me? Rumor spread that her father and little sister had burned to death in a car wreck. With a reaction like that, what else could it be? People were talking about organizing a carpool to attend the funeral and taking friendship shifts so someone would always be available to comfort her. I even agreed to a couple shifts. Hell, the entire choir said a group prayer for her before the concert, and this was at a public school. We were also worried. Now, these thoughts would have been incredibly kind if that was what happened. But nope. Turns out Cryface's little sister was diagnosed with diabetes. The sister didn't go to the hospital. She didn't get sick and need medical attention. The family had only received a call that the scheduled medical tests came back positive for diabetes. The mom came to tell Cryface because the family had decided to skip the choir concert so they could meet with the doctor and talk about the medical diagnosis. He was a massive jerk. One day we had a supply in science, and he got up on the desk, whipped his pee-pee out, and yelled I'm ganned. He then ran out of the classroom. He went to a special needs school 2 months later. When I was in middle school, our friend group had an attention-seeking girl. She was generally alright for a middle schooler, hormonal teenage bitchiness aside, but we could all tell she was a bit troubled. She would lie about everything. She made up family members that didn't exist, tried to claim that every dark-haired thin female extra in a music video that only appeared for a split second was her, and all sorts of other things. For example, once, she dug a huge bloody hole in her lip and claimed that her brother punched her, except she didn't have a brother. One day, she started texting us about how she's drunk, cut her arms up, and is trying to put things like Sharpie ink into the cuts so that it would poison her and give her the not alive. Naturally, we all panicked. One of the girls in our group decided to call the police, and she ended up being put in some sort of a mental hospital for a while. When she came back, she was super pissed at us and refused to speak to any of us. I guess she didn't get the reaction she wanted. She showed no physical signs of the kind of self-harm she claimed to have done to herself either. Little brother is a few years younger than me. He used to come into my room to harass me all the time, and my parents never allowed me to have a lock. He was around 10 when I started propping a piano stand under my doorknob to keep people out. I'm so sick of people saying it was a fire hazard. You'd use whatever you could do if your parents never knocked, and your brother used to shoot you with their soft guns. Little brother pushed the door and the piano stand was at the knob. I ignored it before all I heard was the loudest bang followed by a thud. I opened the door to see him laying on the floor, holding his face and crying. Apparently, he decided that he could break down my door like in the movies by throwing himself against it after running from down the hall. But this dumbass didn't just throw his shoulder or kick it. He threw his entire body against it like a squirrel going for a tree. Arms and legs out, face f***ing first. I got blamed for it, but it was worth it. Only time I ever laughed that hard at his expense again was when he tried to fart into my room and pooped himself about 2 years later. There was this girl for a while that had this huge crush on me, and she didn't seem to realize that she had been a total jerk to me for most of my life, and that I really disliked her. Finally, she decided to get my attention by stealing my $300 leather jacket and saying that she wouldn't give it back unless I went out with her. So I contacted her mom and told her that if she didn't intervene, then my parents were going to press charges. The day after she gave my jacket back, she sent me this long ass text talking about how I hurt her so badly and it would take a long time to earn back her trust. I replied by saying I don't want you to trust me, I want you to leave me alone. And we haven't spoken since. She told the whole school that some dude got her pregnant with twins and that she had no baby's procedure. She printed pictures of ultrasounds off the internet and put balloons on his locker on the twins' birthday. Jokes on her because she didn't cut the URL off one of the ultrasound pictures. Made sweet love to a horse and took a video of it. Bragged to a couple other weirdos about the horse freaking. They sent themselves the video off his phone and it went around the whole school. Enlisted right after graduation, probably to escape horse lover reputation. Started yelling and screaming purely in an annoying and antagonistic way during a school paintball drill. We had no idea it was a drill and the kid is just banging on walls and yelling, "Hey, we are in here, we are in here," as other students are in the corner and girls are crying because they truly believe this kid is going to get them deceased. The teacher and student aides were trying to restrain him, and a friend of mine, again, still under the impression this was real, literally stood up to go punch his lights out to shut him up, just as the drill ended and was revealed to be just a drill. Had the announcement come a few seconds later, that kid would have gotten knocked the hell out. Teacher assigned us a confessional speech, and he admitted he had the hots for his sister, then got defensive when we recoiled with oohs and no. He claimed we were all on the wrong side of history and that consensual incest was going to be the next big thing. There used to be a guy in my class that would do anything for attention. The other guys in class liked to make him do dumb stuff and he always thought he somehow proved himself. He did things like cutting of his hair during lessons, touch girls where he shouldn't, and start fire alarms just for fun. One day he got caught masturbating in the cafeteria, twice. He T-posed whilst standing on a table in the cafeteria and got suspended. I can sense his power through this comment. There was a kid on our school bus who needed way too much attention. He was constantly screaming or throwing stuff out the window. He at one point reenacted giving birth the whole ride, complete with legs spread, screaming, fake pushing, etc. One day he threw a water bottle and hit a car. He was banned from the bus for the year. The next year he was allowed back on. In the first week he pulled out a needle and pierced his lower lip while on the bus. Of course it was bumpy, so he didn't get it centered, so he did it again to even it out. He was banned from the bus again. I had a friend growing up called Jody. She would always lie about things to get attention. As we grew up and went to different schools, we grew apart. Once I turned 17, I got into contact with her in hopes of getting to know her again. I assumed that, because she was 17, that she had grown up and stopped trying to get attention. I also had other friends that I would see, and she was definitely jealous. Then she dropped a bombshell. Her dad was dying. I was devastated for her and spent less time with my own friends as I felt that she needed me more. As soon as she would find out I was with my friends, she would cry and ask me to come over as she was depressed. She also claimed that she was pregnant with a girl and that she had lost her when she was almost 4 months pregnant. She would cry to me all the time about her baby girl and would cry as she was scared to lose her dad. Mother's Day would come and she would talk about how this should be her day and she should have had a baby girl by now. She also took a lot of time off work to be with her dad, and her work was very supportive of her. It all came crashing down when she had a phone call from her co-worker to ask how her dad was. Jody cried and said that her dad didn't have long left and that he had forgotten who she was when she saw him last. She said that she wanted to die for it to be all over. I remember crying as I was scared for her and felt helpless. I went home, and the next day, she phoned and asked me to get to her house straight away. She sat me down and told me that she had made it all up about her dad dying and that she never lost a baby. She said that she was only telling me this because her co-worker had grown worried for her and came to her house to have a word with Jody's mum so that she could have more time off work. Her mother wasn't at home, so Jody knew she couldn't keep lying anymore. I was honestly scared of her at that point, as I knew that if I had gotten mad, she probably would have made something up about me, because that's how she is. I asked where her dad was, and he obviously wasn't at the hospital, but he was on a business trip. I asked her where she had gotten the scan, and she said that she had gotten it online. She also said that the reason why she lied was because she loved all the attention that she was getting from everyone, and that it started because she wanted a day off work, which turned into weeks. The scary part about her lying for attention was that it was like that she was starting to believe it all herself. Thanks for watching Team Astro. Please subscribe for more videos, like and share this video, and consider supporting us.